Are you trying to decide whether you should buy a cork yoga block or a foam yoga block or a set of blocks? And you're trying to figure out which set of blocks is going to be best for your 40 something, your 50 something year old joints. Stay tuned. I'm going to go over some of the pros and cons of the cork versus foam yoga blocks and how you can use those blocks to help support your yoga practice for those of you who are over 40, over 50, and beyond. My name is Heather. Welcome back to my channel. I make videos about yoga, specifically for those of us who want to train our minds, strengthen our bodies, and lead from within. So if you are in the market for purchasing a set of yoga blocks and you're trying to decide, do I get cork or do I get foam? Let's talk a little bit about, first of all, how you might use yoga blocks. Okay, there's a couple different ways that you can use yoga blocks in your yoga practice. One is going to be to help you bring the floor up to you. Okay. So if you're in a particular yoga posture, yoga pose, and you want to bring the floor up to you, blocks can really help with that. So here, if I'm in my forward fold pose here, and maybe my low back is tight, maybe my hamstrings are tight, maybe even my calves might be tight. If you're coming to your forward fold and you're like, I can't touch the ground. And so as a result, you can't relax the muscles in your back, the muscles in your neck, the muscles in your face, right? So when you're in forward fold, you can use a yoga block or a set of blocks to bring the ground up to you. All right. So when you come to forward fold, you can place your hands on the block in multiple settings. Just the way the block is shaped, you've got multiple heights, right? And so if you place your hands on the block, what you can do then is now I can relax the head, I can relax my neck, I can relax the face, not worrying about, oh, I can't touch the floor here, so I'm tensing up all these other muscles trying to fold that pose. All right. So that's one way that you can use yoga blocks in your yoga practice. Another is to provide additional support for your joints when you come into some of the more restorative type poses. So one example might be if you are sitting in a comfortable seated position, you come to sit, you might have tight hips, tight back, where your knees you just don't come down to the ground. All right, you can't bring them down to the ground here. So what you can do is you can take a block and you can place a block underneath your knee. Again, multiple height settings here. Just figure out what works best for you. And it allows you just to come into that position, comes into the pose, close your eyes, and just chill the F out, right? You can relax. You're not sitting here like holding your hips. You're not sitting here like, oh, is it not going to help, right? So the blocks will help you with any sort of restorative postures for your joints. So now, how do you decide between cork and foam? All right, the biggest thing that's going to be the difference between cork and foam is going to be the denseness of the blocks. So this foam yoga block that I have here, this is one that I purchased a long time ago. It was my first set of yoga blocks. It's foam. You can see it's squishy. Okay. It's very squishy here. And it's softer than these cork yoga blocks here. Okay. So the cork yoga block, there's no give to it at all. It's thicker, it's denser. So if I'm coming into a balancing posture where I need to bring the ground up to me, this is going to provide additional stability and support. So let's say I'm back here in my forward fold and I want to come into something like a warrior three where I bring my right leg up to the sky and I'm balancing on my left leg, right? Yeah, I can't talk and do this at the same time, I guess. You can use the block to provide you some additional support and your balance. So you can come onto your palm, you can come onto your fingertips, then maybe working towards bringing your hands to heart center. But that block here is going to provide that additional stability and support in those balancing postures. So a cork yoga block is going to be much more stable. It's heavier, it's denser, it's thicker. Okay. Whereas the foam yoga blocks are going to be much more cushier, softer. So it really just kind of depends on what it is that you want to use the blocks for. I use the cork blocks all the time now. I used to just use the foam blocks, but since I switched over to the cork, I use those all the time. Now, if you want to think about if you're a kind of person that you like certain textures, you like the way things feel, the foam yoga blocks are softer. Competitive. It's softer than the cork yoga blocks. Also, if you come into some of these more restorative postures here, say you need, you want to provide some support for your knee. You can see here it's not quite as stable as the foam yoga blocks, but it's softer. It's a little bit softer on my joint. Okay, so you want to think about things like, how are you going to use the blocks? If you're not sure, you can certainly try a set out. Spend a little bit of money and buy yourself a set of foam yoga blocks. If you get frustrated because they're too squishy, they fall over, then maybe you want to invest in a set of cork, yoga blocks. Okay. But I do use these all the time now. I started with the foam ones. Once I switched over to the cork ones, I was like, this is amazing. This is amazing. It works really well for me for all the things that I want to use blocks for. So if you are in the market for a set of yoga blocks, I do highly suggest the cork yoga blocks. I specifically have the Manduka yoga blocks here. I have a link for you in the description. It's an affiliate link. You can buy them on Amazon. Um, these are a set that I got. This is a set that I got at Target. I probably bought this in maybe 2010 or 2011. But Gaiam makes a really good foam block as well. I have an affiliate link for you in the description as well if you want to try out those foam yoga blocks. But I do highly suggest trying out the cork ones. But if you do know that you're somebody like you don't like things to be tough, hard to do, no give, then I would certainly suggest trying out the foam yoga block. Now, let me answer some of the questions that you might have now that we've talked about the differences between cork and foam yoga blocks. And your question might be this: I'm in my 50s and I'm new to yoga. Do I even need blocks? And my answer to you is yes. I absolutely think that everybody should have a good set of yoga blocks. If they're practicing yoga at home, if you are practicing yoga at a yoga studio, your studio will likely have blocks. Don't be afraid to use them. Don't feel like it makes you look like a beginner or that you're new to yoga. I will say that the longer I've been practicing yoga, the more I use blocks. Okay. Blocks really help you to open things up, get deeper into twists, provide additional support for balance, bringing that floor up to you for days that you're just like, I can't touch my toes today, or maybe I can never touch my toes. I will say that, don't feel like it sort of gives you away as a beginner that you use yoga block. I use yoga blocks way more now than I did when I began yoga, because I now understand the value of having a good set of blocks and using blocks in my yoga practice. So don't feel like it's something that sort of like gives you away as being a beginner or new to yoga. So yes, absolutely use blocks. They're there to support you in your practice. And, an instructor, if you're at a yoga studio, your teacher will certainly be able to provide some suggestions on how to use the blocks in various poses that you might be doing throughout that particular practice. So yes, if you're over 50, you're new to yoga, absolutely yes. I 100% think that you should use yoga blocks. The question might be, can I use household items instead of yoga blocks? And the answer there is absolutely yes. If you're practicing yoga at home and you don't have yoga blocks just yet, but you kind of want to try it out, you can find something of a similar shape that might help you in your yoga practice. Maybe you have a box, maybe like a shoe box. You could use some books. You can use anything that really is kind of like this shape. But that's my suggestion, is to try with using a shoebox, maybe some books. You're probably not going to have as good of stability as you would with a nice set of cork yoga blocks, but it can kind of get you in that feeling of how does a pose feel differently using a block or a box or a book as some additional support versus not using it. Okay, so try it in your forward fold. I gave that example earlier. Try it in your forward fold. And if you come into that forward fold, you're reaching down towards the earth and you have a block, a book, a shoebox to bring that up that you could just relax your hands on. It's going to change how you're able to relax the rest of the muscles in your body as you're trying to just come into that pose and be present in that moment. And your question might be, are Cork yoga blocks worth the extra cost? So if you check out my affiliate links that I have in the description, you'll notice there is a price difference between the foam yoga block and the Cork yoga block. There is a price difference. Yes, I personally think that having a good set of the Cork yoga blocks is a must. If you are going to practice yoga regularly, I highly suggest it. I kind of think it's like when I was getting interested in mountain biking. I do not mountain bike right now, but I was thinking about getting into mountain biking, and I'm the kind of person I like to try out new things all the time. And so years ago, I set myself a $600 limit. When I'm starting a new hobby, I won't spend more than $600 because I won't know that I'm going to stick with it. I tried out a lot of stuff. I haven't stuck with it all. Like I just like to try new things. And when I was thinking about trying out mountain biking, I wanted to only spend $600 on a bike. And I was told that that is probably going to make my experience not as nice as if I spent maybe $2,500 or $3,000 on a bike. The difference in the shocks, the difference in how the bike is going to feel when I'm on a trail is going to be noticeably different between a cheaper bike and that more expensive bike. I think the same thing happens here with yoga blocks. I was using these foam yoga blocks. They work. They do the job. They bring the floor up to me. They provide some support for me in the on my joints. But what I was really struggling with is like when I was doing some poses and it flexes too much for what I was doing. So it was worth it for me to invest in the Cork yoga blocks, which is much more sturdy. If I'm putting weight on the block, it doesn't bend. Okay. So you might find that you want to try out yoga blocks, but you might get frustrated with these. That's what happened with me. I started with the foam. I got frustrated with the foam, moved over to the Cork. So, if you're concerned about costs, like I said, start out with maybe finding a shoebox, a book, something like that's very similarly shaped to a block. Try it out to see how it feels, but also know that if you invest a little bit more money in a set of foam yoga blocks, you might use that to get, used to using the blocks. Where do you use it in your yoga practice? How do you use the blocks? What do the different shape settings do? And then maybe you want to upgrade to a set of Cork yoga blocks, okay? But again, if you do go to a yoga studio that has blocks, certainly use their blocks there. This is a great option for those of you who have a home yoga practice, or you bring in blocks with you to your yoga studio. So, which one do you use? Do you already use blocks? If so, which ones do you use? Do you use Cork? Do you use foam? Do you use whatever the yoga studio has? Let me know in the comments which ones do you use. And if you found this video helpful, please make sure to like the video, subscribe to my channel, and maybe send this video to somebody who you think might find it helpful, somebody who might be approaching their 40s, in their 50s, and they're trying to add yoga into their wellness routines. I'd love to have them come join us over here on my YouTube channel. So thank you. I'll see you in the next video.